Welcome to Saturday Night at the Movies. I'm your host, Glenn Holland. Tonight's movie is the 1958 romantic comedy Indiscreet. It was directed by Stanley Donen from a screenplay by Norman Krasna based on his own 1953 stage play, Kind Sir. Indiscreet stars Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman with Cecil Parker, Phyllis Calvert, David Kossoff, and Megs Jenkins. Anna Kalman is a famous and successful actress who has given up on finding a man who is right for her. She's just returned unexpectedly to her lavish London flat after only a few days of a romantic vacation in Mallorca, because the lover who accompanied her turned out not to be the man she thought he was. Despondent and irritable, she worries Doris and Carl, the couple who work as her housekeeper and chauffeur. Anna annoys her older sister, Margaret, who is surprised to find her at home when Margaret and her husband, Alfred, arrive at the flat to change clothes. Alfred works in the Foreign Office, and he has invited an American financier, Philip Adams, to meet him and Margaret at Anna's flat so they can all prepare for a state dinner where Philip is to be the main speaker. When Philip arrives, he and Anna are instantly smitten with each other. He is just the sort of mature, suave, accomplished, and intelligent man she has been looking for. Margaret persuades Anna to join them at dinner, and Philip and Anna spend most of the evening flirting with each other. At the end of the evening, Anna invites Philip to join her the next evening at the opera, but he reveals he has a wife back in San Francisco he's separated from with no hope of a divorce. Undeterred, Anna renews the invitation and she and Philip begin a love affair, despite Margaret's warnings that Anna must be careful. Philip flies back and forth from his work at NATO headquarters in France and even rents a flat in Anna's building, one floor below hers, so they can be together more often. Their happiness is threatened when Philip must accept a temporary NATO posting in New York City, a move that will take him away from Anna for several months. But a greater problem faces Philip when Alfred learns a secret about him, one that could destroy his relationship with Anna if she should ever discover it. Norman Krasna, a playwright, screenwriter, producer, and director, specialized in screwball comedies that turned on mistaken identities. These include 1939's Bachelor Mother with Ginger Rogers and David Niven, 1941's The Devil and Miss Jones with Jean Arthur, Robert Cummings, and Charles Coburn, and 1943's Princess O'Rourke with Olivia de Havilland and Robert Cummings, a film Krasna also directed. In November of 1953, his play Kind Sir opened on Broadway, starring Mary Martin and Charles Boyer. Playwright Joshua Logan, who was kept from directing the play by illness, wrote in his 1976 memoir, "I was amazed again at the way Norman could take a small misunderstanding, a white lie, and turn it into a full-length, funny, and even romantic play. It was brilliantly constructed and had the glamour and delightful aura of drawing room comedy that had been missing from the theater for years." But Kind Sir was not a success and closed after only 166 performances. Pairing Mary Martin and Charles Boyer in a light romantic comedy had backfired, Logan wrote. The public came to see a combination of South Pacific, Algiers, and Maryland. With their appetites set for a juicy steak dinner, they had been served fish. Exquisitely prepared fish, but nevertheless not steak. And the shock to the taste buds caused not only disappointment, but anger. Because of the play's poor performance on Broadway, Krasna was able to buy the movie rights for only $10,000, being careful not to reveal that he already had Cary Grant interested in a film version. Grant initially wanted either Deborah Kerr or Ingrid Bergman for the female lead. When Grant accepted Bergman's Oscar for Best Actress for her performance in 1956 Anastasia in her absence, he was overwhelmed by the audience's enthusiastic response, and she became his only choice for the role of Anna Kalman. Bergman, in turn, accepted the role without even knowing what the story was about, because she was so eager to work with Grant again after starring with him in Alfred Hitchcock's 1946 spy thriller, Notorious. But she was already committed to another film shooting in Great Britain, so Krasna changed the locale of the story from New York to London. The change in locale for Indiscreet from New York to London did more than provide an opportunity for the dry humor provided by Phyllis Calvert and Cecil Parker as Anna Kalman's sister and brother-in-law. It also brought to the film a sort of aristocratic sheen and detachment that allows the audience to forget that the movie's romantic shenanigans involve people from a very rarefied strata of human society. As Glenn Erickson wrote for Turner Classic Movies in 2008, Anna Kalman's romance with the urbane Philip Adams begins as a good-natured fairy tale. She's rich and famous. He's rich and important. Anna's wardrobe is by Christian Dior and her apartment is a designer's dream. The miracle beneath all this material wish fulfillment is that one look at Anna and Philip together convinces us that it's all for pure love. When chemistry like that happens in a movie, little else matters. As Erickson points out, Ingrid Bergman in Indiscreet is essentially playing a fictional version of herself, a famous woman of affairs who openly states that she's willing to abandon her acting career to follow the man she loves. Bergman had just been essentially exiled from Hollywood after her very public affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini, despite their later marriage and children. By the time filming for Indiscreet began in London, she and Rossellini were separated and would soon divorce. The press bombarded Bergman with questions when she arrived at Heathrow Airport. Cary Grant was there and demanded, "Why don't you talk to me? My problems are far more interesting." Despite its title, the movie was in fact quite discreet in dealing with its very adult romantic plot. A primary example is the split screen showing Anna and Philip in their separate beds in separate cities talking to each other on the telephone. According to an article in the Hollywood Citizen News published shortly before the film's release, director Stanley Donen had 2 bedrooms built side by side on the soundstage and 2 separate cameras and sound crews. Their operations were synchronized, but each color camera photographed only one half of the action. The sequence filmed Bergman and Grant simultaneously speaking their lines within each other's hearing, as the article noted, so their emotional reactions had far more romantic impact than if the action of each split-screen half had been staged at different times. As a result, 2 unmarried characters 300 miles apart seemed to be side by side in bed at a time when even married couples could not be shown together in bed under the strictures of the Hollywood Production Code. The Hollywood Reporter Review took specific note of the sequence and how Cary Grant straightening his blanket in Paris appears, as the paper put it, to conquer space by padding Bergman's London derriere. The Hollywood Citizen News article quite accurately predicted this technique might well set a precedent for future scenes of this kind. Indiscreet was both a critical and a commercial hit. Most critics felt the plot of the movie was ephemeral, but Bergman and Grant pulled it off splendidly. A.H. Weiler wrote in the New York Times of the film's release, "Miss Bergman emerges as a most charming comedienne, a professional who can handle a gaily irreverent line of dialogue as easily as a dramatic declamation. Mr. Grant romps through his assignment as to the manner born. Indiscreet is as light, airy, and weightless as a souffle, but all concerned have made it a most palatable concoction." A review in Time magazine agreed. Bergman, always lovely to look at, is thoroughly competent in the first comedy role that she has played for Hollywood. It concluded, and Cary Grant is in a class by himself when it comes to giving a girl a yacht. The success of Indiscreet opened up new opportunities for director Stanley Donen. Previously best known for his musicals for MGM Studios, including On the Town in 1949, Singin' in the Rain in 1952, Seven Brides for Seven Brothers in 1954, and Funny Face in 1957, Donen had now shown a deft hand in directing romantic comedies as well. As it happened, Indiscreet marked two firsts for Ingrid Bergman. It was her first full-out motion picture comedy, and surprisingly, the first time she played a woman of high fashion. She also picked up a new skill, since the movie required her to learn how to dance the Highland Fling. For his part, Cary Grant had to learn how to play snooker and how to play the violin left-handed, the latter a skill he, oddly enough, was never again called upon to demonstrate in a motion picture. Please join us again next time for another Saturday night at the movies. I'm Glenn Holland. Good night.